On a rainy night, a broken-down car became the stage for an unlikely encounter. Emily, an ordinary young woman, stopped to help a stranger, Michael. She had no idea that this small act of kindness would turn her life upside down. Chases, lies, and dangerous secrets would soon unfold, revealing that Michael was not who he seemed to be, and that both of their fates were tied to a dangerous game of power and manipulation. The rain hammered against the empty asphalt, each drop turning the night into a darker scene. In the middle of the road, a car sat motionless, headlights flickering like a silent cry for help. Inside, Michael gripped the steering wheel tightly, trapped between silence and the storm. This wasn't just a broken car, it was the beginning of something he couldn't control. Then, out of nowhere, the headlights of another vehicle slowly approached. Emily drove carefully, her wipers struggling to keep up with the downpour. She spotted the silhouette of a man standing alone by the roadside, and, against every instinct of fear, she decided to stop. Her heart raced, as if it already knew this choice would change everything. She lowered her window, the rain rushing in, and for a moment, their eyes met. There was something intense in that silent exchange. He tried to smile, but the exhaustion on his face spoke louder than words. Without hesitation, Emily offered her help, her voice trembling between courage and the cold. Michael accepted, but his wary gaze gave him away, as if he were hiding an invisible wound. The night seemed to watch in silence, complicit in a secret about to be revealed. Yet something about that gesture of kindness already felt too dangerous. Emily unlocked the door, and he got in, carrying with him the weight of the rain and an untold mystery. The smell of gasoline mixed with the storm filled the small space. Her old engine roared in protest, as if it knew what awaited them. Michael settled into the seat, but his eyes never left the mirrors. That innocent offer of help now felt like a trap set by fate. The road swallowed them again, headlights cutting only a few feet ahead. Emily had no idea the man beside her carried secrets that could change her life forever. Michael sat silently, fighting an inner battle between trust and fear. The storm outside was only a reflection of the storm he carried inside. And something about that night whispered that the worst was yet to come. The car pushed forward on the soaked highway, tires sliding through deep puddles. Emily kept her grip firm on the wheel, but the air between them was tense, the silence heavier than the rain. Michael stared out the fogged window, trying to mask his unease, but his body betrayed him. He wasn't just stranded, he was running from something. Suddenly, headlights appeared behind them. A piercing glow cut through the darkness, closing in too quickly. Emily glanced at the rearview mirror, her heartbeat surging. A car was tailing them, refusing to pass, matching their every move. Her instincts screamed this was no coincidence, yet she couldn't imagine why anyone would be chasing a man who looked so ordinary. Michael noticed, but kept his voice calm, telling her not to worry. He tried to act natural, yet his eyes betrayed the truth he couldn't say out loud. Emily bit her lip, trying to believe him. The road stretched endlessly ahead, each curve hiding a greater danger. Fear slowly began to turn into suspicion. The car behind them closed the distance, its headlights flashing across the wet glass like a silent threat. Emily pressed harder on the gas, but her old engine groaned, rattling as if it might collapse at any moment. Michael clenched his fist, the weight of his secret burning inside him. The chase wasn't just real, it was personal, and Emily was caught in the middle of it without even knowing. The rain grew heavier, making the road even more treacherous. Emily struggled to keep control, but deep down, she knew she was trapped in something she never chose. The mysterious car stayed in the shadows, like a predator toying with its prey. Michael looked away, but there was no hiding it. The danger had a name, and sooner or later, she would find out. In the days that followed, Emily couldn't get the stranger out of her mind. The memory of that stormy night still echoed inside her, along with the sense of danger that followed her home. When she saw him again, it wasn't by chance. Michael was there, as if fate itself had decided to cross their paths once more. But now, he seemed even more enigmatic. Their conversations were always surface level, short replies, almost rehearsed. Emily asked simple questions, but Michael dodged them with unsettling calm. Small contradictions appeared. A wrong detail about his routine, a story that had no clear beginning or end. With every meeting, her doubts grew like a silent shadow. Something about him didn't add up. She began watching him quietly, noticing his gestures, his quick glances over his shoulder, the moments when he drifted into dark thoughts. Michael carried an invisible weight, and it unsettled her. What she felt wasn't fear, it was more complicated, a mix of curiosity and dangerous attraction. The mystery was pulling her in. One night, Emily found him in strange circumstances. He was somewhere he shouldn't have been, surrounded by people who didn't match his quiet appearance. When he saw her, his look was almost a desperate plea for silence. Emily realized there was more to him than she had imagined, but she wasn't sure if she even wanted to know the truth. The secret seemed to pulse in the air, closer than ever to being revealed. Emily could sense that this man was hiding something far too big to ignore. What scared her wasn't only the secret itself, it was the feeling that she was about to be pulled into it. And against all logic, her heart was already becoming involved. Behind the mirrored windows of a luxurious building, a cold stare watched in silence. Charles Bennett, Michael's right-hand man at the company, tracked his every move with suspicion. It wasn't just jealousy for power, it was an obsession to bring down the man who led everything. And when he saw Emily getting closer, he recognized her as the perfect piece for his game. Charles knew how to manipulate like few others. He spread polite smiles through the halls, but hid invisible daggers in every word. Emily, unaware, had no idea she was now being closely watched. Every gesture she made with Michael was noted in detail, part of a silent scheme. To the executive, people weren't people, they were opportunities for control. The company's corridors echoed with intrigue, rumors planted with surgical precision. Charles fueled suspicion everywhere, creating an environment where Michael looked vulnerable. Emily, without realizing, was already mentioned in whispers of envy and hate. Her name was beginning to circulate around tables where cold decisions shaped the future of empires. Day by day, Charles's interest became clearer. It wasn't passion, it was power. Emily was the weak point he believed he had found in the untouchable man. To Charles, getting close to her meant opening cracks in the billionaire's armor. And the more Michael tried to hide his life, the easier it became for his rival to use it against him. Charles's shadow grew like a silent storm. He didn't strike head-on. He thrived in dark corners, half-truths, poisons that spread unseen. Emily didn't realize it yet, but she was already walking through an invisible web. And the man who once felt distant was now dangerously close to becoming part of her life. Emily began to notice strange looks around her. People who once barely noticed her now whispered as she walked by. Charles drew near with calculated calm, always hinting at something about Michael. His words sounded sweet on the surface, but hid venom in every syllable. And the more he spoke, the more doubt began to grow inside her. He said Michael wasn't who he appeared to be. He hinted at shady deals, dangerous alliances, always leaving room for her imagination to fill in the rest with fear. Emily tried to push those thoughts away, but insecurity had already taken root. The memories of that stormy night now mixed with suspicions that corroded her trust. Michael, on the other hand, grew even more closed off. He avoided questions, dodged explanations, and that only made Charles's words stronger. Emily looked at him and saw kindness, but also shadows she couldn't understand. Her heart whispered one thing, but her mind shouted another. The inner conflict began to consume her every move. Charles, always nearby, offered attention in her fragile moments. He was there when Emily needed someone to confide in, pretending to be nothing more than a concerned friend. But behind his kindness lay a clear intention to turn the key. He wanted her to believe she was being deceived, that the love she felt was nothing more than a dangerous illusion. The nights grew long and silent. Emily replayed every detail of her encounter with Michael, searching for the truth hidden in his eyes. But what once felt like destiny was starting to look like a trap. And inside her, One question echoed like a relentless whisper. Had she fallen in love with the wrong man? The pressure grew heavier each day, as if Michael's silence was about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. One tense night, Emily confronted him, unable to bear the doubts any longer. Her eyes searched for answers, while his carried the weight of a hidden world. For a moment, he thought of running again, but her presence disarmed him. Michael drew a deep breath, letting part of his mask fall away. He admitted he wasn't an ordinary man, that powerful enemies were after him. His words weren't rehearsed, they were raw confessions, spoken like a plea for understanding. Emily listened in silence, trying to grasp where truth ended and secrets began. The revelation felt incomplete, yet it already changed everything. Fear washed over her, but so did something unexpected: compassion. Seeing that man, once so mysterious and strong, reveal his vulnerability was like finding a crack in a stone wall. Emily wanted to believe him, yet doubt still clung to her mind like a lingering shadow. Her heart beat in two different rhythms. Michael didn't tell her everything. He didn't reveal that he was the billionaire who ruled the city. He only made it clear that his life was in danger, and now hers was tangled in it too. Emily stepped back, sensing that every word from him was an invitation to danger, and still, something inside her resisted the thought of leaving him. That night ended without answers, only bigger questions. Emily walked away on trembling steps, while Michael stayed behind, trapped between guilt and the need to protect what he was hiding. The silence between them wasn't indifference, it was a bond beginning to weave itself, even against all logic. And fate was already preparing its next blow. The hall was filled with lights, music, and sharp stares. Emily moved through the lavish gowns and practiced smiles, still lost in the half-truth Michael had confessed. Then the unexpected happened. Charles, a cruel smile on his lips, stepped onto the stage and called for everyone's attention. What he was about to say would change everything. With the calm of an executioner, Charles announced to the crowd that Michael wasn't just a man on the run, but the billionaire owner of the company that ruled the city. The impact was immediate, a shock that tore through the hall like lightning. Emily felt the ground vanish beneath her feet, the air leave her chest. The pieces of the puzzle clicked together in the most painful way. The memories of that stormy night came rushing back. The broken car, the vulnerable look, the half-revealed truth. Now, all felt like a cruel performance. Emily felt used, deceived, as if she had been part of a carefully staged game. The kindness she thought she had seen in him was now tangled with the image of a powerful man surrounded by secrets. Michael tried to reach her, his eyes begging for a chance to explain. But Emily pulled away, her heart consumed by anger and disappointment. Her silence struck harder than any words. To everyone else, it was just another scandal amid the glittering luxury. To Emily, it was the collapse of everything she believed in. The night that was meant to be filled with glamour turned into a nightmare. Charles, triumphant, watched from a distance, savoring every second of his rival's downfall. Emily, torn between pain and pride, didn't know if forgiveness was even possible. What had started as an unexpected encounter now seemed like an irreversible betrayal. But the story still held its twists. Emily spent days in silence, drowning in a mix of anger and sorrow. Michael's face haunted her memories, now accompanied by the bitter taste of deception. In that moment of fragility, Charles drew closer, offering gentle words and promises of protection. His presence felt providential, but it carried a carefully measured poison. He claimed Michael had always been a manipulator, someone who used people as disposable pieces on a board of power. Emily listened, torn between hurt and the desperate hope that she hadn't been just a pawn. Charles seized every hesitation, planting seeds of doubt that grew like thorns inside her. Michael, isolated, felt the crushing weight of loneliness. Without Emily, everything seemed to collapse. His strength had never come from money or the empire he controlled. It had come from the woman who had seen something in him beyond the title. Now, he found himself surrounded by enemies and worse, condemned by the very person he most wanted to protect. The emptiness was unbearable. Meanwhile, Charles intensified his game. He made himself present at just the right moments, offering help, comfort, and advantages Emily had never dreamed of. His presence looked like that of an ally, but his eyes betrayed ambition. Every gesture of care concealed a single goal: to destroy Michael and take what he never could. Emily was trapped in a labyrinth of choices, between the man who had hidden the truth from her and the rival who seemed ready to care for her. Her heart became a battlefield, yet deep down, something in her still resisted believing that all of Michael's kindness had been a lie, and that lingering doubt would become the key to what came next. Emily stumbled upon documents she was never meant to find, hidden folders, silent evidence that revealed the truth behind the threats. The cruel puzzle came together. Charles had always been behind the chase. The man who posed as her protector was, in fact, the hidden enemy. Her heart raced, torn between fear and outrage. Memories rushed back with piercing clarity. Every suspicious glance, every insinuation from Charles now rang out as carefully laid traps. Emily realized she had been used as bait in a vicious game. Michael wasn't the executioner Charles painted him to be. He was the victim of a conspiracy far darker than she could have imagined. The weight of the revelation stole her breath. Emily knew she couldn't remain still, but helping Michael meant putting herself in real danger. The image of Charles, always elegant, always cold, now appeared as that of a masked predator. She felt the urgency of choice: run to save herself, or risk everything for the man who had captured her heart. While the city moved at its usual pace, Emily walked with a soul in conflict. With every step, she remembered Michael's eyes on that rainy night, vulnerable and silent. Perhaps that had been his true face all along. But time was running out, and danger crept closer like an inevitable shadow. There was no more room for hesitation. Fate was preparing the final confrontation. Emily didn't know how, but she sensed her choice would define not only Michael's future, but also her own. Among betrayals, lies, and revealed truths, only one certainty pulsed within her: the story wasn't over yet, and love, though wounded, still had one last chance. The confrontation took place under harsh lights, before everyone. Charles, confident, believed he had already won, but Emily appeared at Michael's side, carrying the evidence that unmasked their rival. The once elegant hall became a stage for revelations, and every gaze turned toward the man stripped of his mask of power. The silence weighed like a verdict. Emily raised her voice, showing the world what she had discovered. Charles's lies crumbled like sandcastles, and his arrogance turned into desperation. Michael, standing beside her, didn't need to say a word. Her presence was already his redemption. The woman who had once judged him was now fighting with him, and that changed everything. Charles tried to resist, but the evidence was relentless. Those who had once followed him now stepped back, leaving him alone in his downfall. Emily and Michael, together, witnessed the fall of the enemy who had torn them apart. Justice was not only a legal victory, it was an emotional one, won through pain and courage. Michael regained his honor before everyone, but what truly mattered was Emily's gaze. There were no more masks, no more secrets, only raw, honest truth between them. The billionaire was no longer seen as untouchable, but as a man who had to lose everything to gain what was essential. The memory of that stormy night returned as a symbol. The broken car, the innocent offer of help, the fear and doubt, all of it had led them to this moment. Emily smiled through tears, knowing it hadn't been chance, but destiny. The love born in the dark now shone as redemption, and their story of pain had finally become one of triumph. In the end, it was clear that goodness always prevails, even in the face of betrayal. Emily had risked everything and discovered that true love isn't measured by wealth, but by the courage to stay when everyone else walks away. And you, how many times have you judged someone without knowing their real story? Maybe it's time to believe that new beginnings are still possible. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, you'll find more emotional love stories that prove that, despite the pain and the falls, there is always a chance to find true love.